So for this video, I just wanted to upload something to my channel. To be honest, I'm just gonna do the overlay state. I know this has been seen 1,000 times, but this is how you would do it if you were copying my animation blueprint. This is how you would do the overlay state. Right. So you would go to my locomotion component, or you would go to anywhere where you put your data, right? Wherever you put your camera data and all that stuff, wherever you put your locomotion data. This is where you would go. This is where you would set this up. So I'm gonna go to framework. I'm gonna find where I put my enums, and then I'm gonna create a new enum, and it's gonna be called overlay state. Underscore enum, because I do that. Right? And then I'm gonna add it here. Overlay state. I'm gonna put these in a category. Movement input. And I'm gonna put these here just to keep it nice and neat and clean. Then I'm gonna change this variable to an overlay state. Overlay state enum. And then I'm gonna put this in the enum category. Right? So then I'm gonna press Shift W, and then I'm gonna fill this out. So this is gonna start with default. And then the second state is going to be rifle. But you can add a lot of different states to this. You could add pistol. You can add rocket launcher. You can add a lot of different states to this. But for this one, I'm just going to put rifle. And the reason why I made this an enum instead of a boolean, even though there's only two values, is because in case I want to add on to it in the future. In case I want to add like a pistol to the character, or a machete, or a knife, or something like that. This is basically the upper body layer. The overlay state is the upper body layer. It's the upper body. This is the lower body. This is where you have your walk, run, sprint, stunned. And then upper body would be like when you're holding an item. Like you can see the character's holding like a rifle. Right? Okay. So this is the overlay state. The first, I'm going to set it to holding a rifle because he's already holding a rifle. Right? But now, I'm going to add another state. So this is going to be relaxed rifle, just holding it. And then this is going to be aiming rifle. Because these are all different states. You're aiming the rifle versus holding it. So default, the player is holding the rifle. It's just relaxed. It's just holding it. And then when the player aims, it's going to be aiming the rifle. Okay, now that I have that set up here, I don't think there's anything else I need to do. Wait. Here we go. Camera zoom out versus camera zoom in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create 2 event dispatchers. Or just one. camera zoom, question mark, and then I'm going to create a boolean up here. So I'm going to call it, and then create a, and then if it's zoomed out, I'm not going to press this check bar box, but if it's zoomed in, I am. So if you're zooming in, it's true. If you're not, it's false. Camera zoomed. Okay. So now we go back to the base character. We're going to put this in a locomotion section, actually. And we're going to drag this out. Right? So then we're going to add an event, camera zoomed. We're going to cut it and put it in the locomotion section. Let's do that again. Cut. So if the camera is zoomed in, what you want to do is this. You want to get the overlay state. And then you want to set the enum. Or set overlay. And you want to do this twice. So if you're not zooming in, because for this character the default state is it's just holding relaxed rifle. But if you're zooming in, you want to aim it. And that's it. You just want to set it. Actually, I'm wrong. I want to make this a variable called zoomed in. And then I'm going to go back to the overlay state, delete this, and just call this one rifle. And then I'll put like machete, if I could spell it, here, just as a filler. Right, and then I want to change the default overlay state to rifle. And if you're zoomed in, no matter what, it's always rifle, yeah. And that's all I want to do is I actually just want to create a variable here called zoomed in. Then I want to go to the animation blueprint, so I'm going to delete everything else because everything else is already done. I want to go to blueprint thread safe animation, property access, base character. I want to get that variable I just created, zoomed in, make this a variable. And I also want to get the overlay state. As base character, I want to get the locomotion component, and then I want to get the overlay state. And then save it as a variable. Then I want to go to the animation graph. And I want to add this in between lower body and upper body. Because upper body is for upper body animations. This is where I set the animations. So I want to set it right here. So I want to create a new animation layer, right? Right. And call it overlay. And this is going to set, it's going to have lower body. And so I'm going to go back to the anim graph, plug this in. And then I'm going to select over upper body, put overlay. I'm going to save this as a catch pose. And then I'm going to save all. Right? So what I want to do here is I want to drag out my overlay state. And I want to blend by enum. I want to blend the overlay state, and set that here. To rifle and then machete. And the default pose is also going to be there, where you're holding nothing. So this is lower body locomotion. You're holding the rifle. But now we're going to get this zoomed in. We're going to get aimed idle. Version 2 in place. And then we're just going to blend these together. So you're going to convert this to a single frame. And then all we're going to do is blend it together based off of Boolean. And that's it. So if it's true, if you're aiming, you're zoomed in, do that. If you're not, you're relaxed, play this one. Now they have a whole locomotion set of animations for aiming. That's the long way to do it. That's if you really want to be nitpicky and you really want your stuff to look really nice. They have a whole set of animations for aiming for this exact character pack, like jumping and all that. You could do that, or you can just do it this way. This is like the fast way. It's up to you at the end of the day. And then you just want to interpolate. 0.3 is usually the sweet spot, or 0.4. And then you just want to interpolate the these two animations together. So everything should be working. I don't know why. Huh. I guess I should put this in the default pose too. I'll copy and paste this. Or actually what I'll do is I'll just make it, I'll cache it. Aim locomotion. Aimed loco. Okay, so this should be working. Let's see. Right, so I'm holding it. I'm holding nothing. I'm holding nothing. And then when I aim in, there we go. So it's working, but it's only playing. It's only playing the idle and nothing else. It's not playing the movement, right? So we missed a step. We missed the layered blend per bone. So we're going to change this to aim to loco. And then we're just going to plug this in like this. We're going to cache this as something else. Completed aim. And this actually comes last to this. So this is actually the sequence of order. And you want to cache this as blended aim. Because we blended the overlay state. And then you want to change this false to blended aim. So if you're not zoomed in, actually, I'm sorry. If you're not zoomed in, you want it to be lower body locomotion. So let me just press Control Z. And we want to change this to blended aim. Right, so we want this to be the lower body. And we want the aim idle. B2 stand in place. To use a single frame because it blends better. And we want it to blend based off of, to me, to be completely honest, the best blend I noticed was spine 3 for aiming. That way you just get more movement in the hips. And I blended at 4. And this is the sequence of events. So first you want to get the input pose, lower body locomotion. You're getting that from here. You're caching this. And then you want to use cache pose lower body as the base pose. And then you want to add the aiming idle. And it's single frame, so it's going to play this frame time as the animation. right? And then you want to cache this, save this as a variable, aim locomotion. So in the default pose, the rifle pose would be aim loco, because the default pose is rifle and rifle. You're aiming it. And then you want to save this as blended aim. If it was machete, you would do the same exact process. You would do this, but then you would just save this as a different variable and change this. So this would be a machete, and then this would also be a pistol. So you would just copy this, and this is independent from everything. You're just saving this as a variable, and then you're putting it here. So I should actually change this to aim rifle to make it cleaner. Aimed rifle. And this is independent. I'm even going to save that as a comment. This is independent from everything else. I spelled independent wrong. Holy crap. This is independent. These are individual. So you would have, like for machete, you would have to copy and paste this again. But this would be the machete. So this is like the rifle one. If you were to use machete, this would be machete, pistol, this would be pistol. You would copy and paste this, but just change this one. And then plug it in here. And that's why, and then you save this as a variable called blended aim. So if you're zoomed in, you would use blended aim, you would be aiming, and if you're not, you're using lower body locomotion. If you're not, you would be using lower body locomotion. But then you save it, and it should be working. And then I save this as a variable and call it the completed aim. So the order is 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And that's the order. It goes from top to bottom. Okay, it should be working. I don't want this video to get too long, but it should be working. Yep, there we go. It's working. Another way you can do it is you can go here, add a variable, and put the overlay state here. We call this overlay. And then you would add more inputs here. So this would be the lower body. For the overlay state, you would add more inputs. So this is relax rifle. But then you would add like so actually I don't think you would do that. Actually, I don't think you would add a variable. You would add the variable somewhere else. You wouldn't add the variable. You would just add more inputs. So this would be relaxed rifle. This would be pistol. Relaxed pistol. And relaxed machete. Then you would just change this to like relaxed rifle locomotion. refresh nodes. And then you would add like the different states here. So if you wanted to add like the animations, because like I said before, this comes with a whole lot of animations for aiming. It even has like its own walk and everything to add more sway to the movement and its own jump. You do that here. You would just add like machete or pistol, and you would create independent animation layers, and then you would plug them in like that, and then mix it all into one overlay, and then it would come out as a single stream, I guess you would say. And then this would be like a state machine. For aiming rifle locomotion. So you could either do that here, or you can add a whole new one, a whole new animation. We call this aiming rifle locomotion. And plug that in directly like that. There's just a lot of ways to do the same thing. That's why Unreal Engine is so confusing for some people. So you plug that in here. So there's just it's basically an animation graph function. And then you would go here to the overlay state and add that. Another one of these for aiming rifle. There's just a lot of ways to do it. It's a lot of ways to do the same thing. Right? So instead of here, we're adding a state machine and making this completely messy. You just cache this as a pose. Call it aiming rifle. Delete this. Aiming rifle. Move these two back. And pair these two together. And you would do that for like every single independent state that you want to add to your overlay state. So the animation blueprint could just get really messy, basically. And these are the animation states. And as you can see, it's still going to work. So I just wanted to showcase that. Thank you for watching and enjoy the rest of your day. If you made it this far, thank you for watching.